The alien queen moved slowly through the ruins of her once great city. The sky above was dark, colored by smoke and ash from fires that had burned for days. She had ruled this world with strength and wisdom for centuries, guiding her people through wars and hardships, but now she felt a vulnerability she had never known. Her body was weak, her limbs bruised, and her energy drained from the constant battles. She had faced countless enemies before, but this attack had been different. It was sudden, overwhelming, and left her with no allies nearby to help. Every step she took felt heavy. The ground was littered with debris, broken machinery, and signs of struggle. Buildings that had once been symbols of power and progress now stood broken, their walls cracked and roofs caved in. The air smelled of burnt metal and scorched earth. As she walked, memories of past victories flickered through her mind. She remembered leading her armies with precision, outsmarting opponents who had thought they could challenge her, and winning battles that had seemed impossible. But none of that mattered now. The present was harsh and her survival was uncertain. She paused near a shattered wall and leaned against it for support. Her breathing was slow and uneven, her chest rising and falling as she tried to calm herself. Fear had never been part of her nature, yet now it crept in like a shadow, soft but persistent. She told herself she could not fail. Her people depended on her, and giving up was not an option. But the truth was hard to ignore. She was alone, injured and facing enemies who would show no mercy. Despite the pain and exhaustion, the queen's mind was sharp. She studied the area around her, looking for signs of danger and possible escape routes. Her senses, honed over decades, detected faint movements in the distance, shapes moving quickly, almost like shadows. Her instincts warned her that danger was close, but they also reminded her of the skills that had allowed her to survive so long. She could fight, she could strategize, and she could endure. The question was whether that would be enough this time. As she continued walking, she thought about her people, the ones she had promised to protect. Their faces appeared in her mind's eye. The young who looked up to her with hope, the elders who relied on her wisdom, and the soldiers who had trusted her to lead them. She felt a surge of determination. If she could survive, she would need to be stronger than ever. She could not allow herself to be defeated, not while there was a chance to reclaim her world and rebuild what had been lost. The terrain became rougher, with jagged rocks and twisted metal obstructing her path. She had to use her strength carefully, avoiding sharp edges and unstable ground. One wrong step could mean serious injury or worse. Every movement was a reminder of her fragility, but also of her resilience. Pain and fear were part of this moment, but they would not define her. She reminded herself that she had faced worse conditions before, and she had always found a way through. As she moved, flashes of light caught her eye. The remnants of her city's defense systems had activated during the attack, creating sparks and small explosions in the dark. The sounds echoed through the empty streets like a distant reminder of a civilization that had once thrived. The queen felt a pang of sadness. This city had been a place of learning, of culture, and of progress. Now it was almost unrecognizable, reduced to rubble and ashes. She pressed on, knowing that lingering on the past would not help her survive. She found a small shelter inside what had once been a public hall. The walls were cracked and parts of the ceiling had collapsed, but it offered some cover. She crouched in the shadows, trying to gather her strength. Her mind was restless, running through possible scenarios and strategies. Every instinct told her to stay hidden, yet a part of her knew that hiding alone would not save her. She needed a plan, a way to turn this situation around. While resting, she thought about her enemies. They were cunning and ruthless, taking advantage of her moment of weakness. Unlike the warriors she had faced in the past, these attackers were unpredictable and relentless. They had studied her tactics, learned her strengths, and found a way to exploit her vulnerabilities. The queen's pride had been wounded along with her body. She had always been the one in control, the one others feared or respected. Now the balance had shifted, and she had to adapt quickly. Hours passed, and the darkness outside deepened. The queen remained alert, listening to the distant sounds of movement. the crackle of fires, and the occasional metallic clang from falling debris. Sleep was impossible, not when danger lurked so close. Her body ached, her energy waned, but her mind refused to rest. She was a leader, and leaders did not give in to despair. Even in the darkest moments, they found a way to endure. In the quiet moments between threats, she reflected on her life and her decisions. She thought about the alliances she had formed, the battles she had fought, and the sacrifices she had made for the greater good. She knew that her reign had not been perfect, but she had always acted with purpose and vision. Now, standing on the edge of what felt like the end, she understood that survival required more than strength and intelligence. It required hope and the courage to keep moving forward even when the outcome was uncertain. The queen rose from her hiding place and looked at the path ahead. She could see the faint outlines of distant cliffs, potential routes that might lead to safety. Her heart raced with a mixture of fear and determination. Every step would be a test of her endurance, but she was ready to face it. She reminded herself that she had overcome impossible odds before, and she could do it again. With careful steps, she moved forward, navigating the debris and shadows. Her body was tired, but her spirit remained unbroken. Every movement was a statement of resilience, a declaration that she would not give up. She was the queen, a leader who had faced countless challenges, and now she would face this one. Alone, injured and surrounded by danger, she pressed on, determined to survive and protect her people. In the back of her mind, she felt a faint glimmer of something unexpected, an instinct that someone or something might come to her aid. She did not know who it would be or when, but the thought gave her a small measure of hope. For now, she had to rely on herself, on her strength, and on her wisdom. Every moment was a step toward survival, a step toward reclaiming her world. The queen moved forward, carrying the weight of her responsibilities, the pain of her injuries, and the determination to endure. She would face whatever came next, ready to fight for her life and her people, because giving up was never an option. The human warrior arrived quietly on the desolate planet. His ship had been damaged during the journey, forcing him to land far from any civilization. Even though he was far from home, he had a mission: to find and help the alien queen who was rumored to be in danger. He had heard stories of her strength, her intelligence, and the way she led her people through countless crises. But he also knew that she was alone now, surrounded by enemies, and that time was running out. As he stepped onto the broken terrain, he looked around carefully. The planet was harsh and unforgiving. Smoke rose from the ruins. The ground was jagged, and sharp winds swept across the plains. Yet the warrior moved steadily, his senses alert to every sound, every shadow, every hint of movement. He carried minimal equipment, relying mostly on his skills and training. He had faced danger before, but this felt different. There was a strange energy here, something he could not fully understand. In the distance, he saw movement, shapes moving quickly among the debris. His instincts told him to be cautious. The planet's history of conflict meant that dangers could be hidden around every corner. He crouched behind a pile of rubble and watched, his eyes scanning for threats. His mission was clear, but he also knew that approaching the queen could be risky. She was powerful and cautious, and she might not trust him immediately. Finally, he spotted her. The alien queen was moving slowly, navigating the ruins with care. Her figure, though battered, still radiated strength and authority. The warrior felt a mix of awe and concern. She looked exhausted, yet her posture suggested a determination that refused to yield. He realized immediately that helping her would not be easy. She was a ruler, a fighter, and a survivor. Any mistake could cost him his life, and hers. He took a careful step forward, keeping himself partially hidden. The queen turned her head slightly, her sharp eyes catching even the smallest movements. For a moment, their gazes met. She did not speak, but the look in her eyes was clear. She was wary, alert, and unwilling to trust easily. The warrior understood. He had to prove that he was not a threat. Every move had to show respect and care. Speaking softly, he called out, "I am here to help. I mean no harm." His voice carried a calm authority, meant to reassure rather than alarm. The queen froze, her instincts telling her to be ready for attack. But something in his tone, something in the way he carried himself, made her pause. She had faced countless enemies who had promised help, only to betray her. Yet this human seemed different. There was a steadiness, a willingness to risk himself for someone else, that she had not seen in a long time. The warrior slowly approached, keeping his hands visible and moving carefully to avoid frightening her. Each step was deliberate, measured, showing that he respected her space and authority. He noticed the injuries on her body, the bruises, the weariness, the signs of struggle. His heart ached, but he also felt determination. She had survived this long on her own. With his help, she might stand a chance to survive even further, to reclaim what had been lost. The queen watched him cautiously, her mind racing. Could she trust him? Was he a spy, an enemy, or a friend? She could feel the weight of her decisions pressing down on her. Trusting someone now could mean survival, or disaster. But she also sensed sincerity in his movements and in the way he spoke. There was a calm strength, a sense of purpose that reminded her of her own leadership, and it sparked a small flicker of hope. Finally, she spoke, her voice steady, but soft. "Why should I trust you, human?" The warrior met her gaze without flinching. "Because I have seen courage and I believe in saving lives no matter the risk. I do not ask for loyalty, only the chance to help." His honesty was clear, his conviction unmistakable. For the first time in days, the queen felt a strange relief. Perhaps she did not have to face this alone. He moved closer, offering small gestures to show assistance without intrusion. He carried basic supplies, water, healing items, and tools, enough to sustain her and himself as they navigated the dangerous terrain. He did not try to control her or make decisions for her. Instead, he let her take the lead, offering support when needed. The queen noticed this difference immediately. Many leaders had tried to control her, but he simply wanted to help. As they began to move together, the warrior kept his senses sharp. Every sound, every movement in the shadows was a potential threat. He guided her through safer paths, avoiding unstable ground and areas that could collapse. His experience in hostile environments became evident, and the queen could not help but feel respect. This human, though different from anyone she had known, was resourceful, careful, and brave. She started to realize that perhaps this alliance, though unexpected, could save her life. Along the way, small moments of connection began to appear. The warrior would hand her water, offer a glance that said, "You are not alone," and act decisively when danger approached. Though they did not speak much, their actions communicated trust, care, and understanding. The queen felt emotions she had long suppressed: gratitude, respect, and even a hint of companionship. She had been a ruler for centuries, yet this was new, the possibility of relying on another being without fear of betrayal. As night fell, they found a small cave for shelter. The warrior set up a modest space for them to rest, keeping watch while the queen regained some strength. For the first time in days, she felt the weight of fear lessen, replaced by cautious hope. She still knew dangers lay ahead, but with the human warrior by her side, survival seemed possible. She began to imagine a path forward, one where she could fight back against her enemies, reclaim her world, and protect her people. Throughout the night, they did not need many words. The warrior's vigilance, calmness, and care spoke volumes. The queen felt a sense of safety she had not known in a long time. Even though she remained cautious, she could sense that this human was different from anyone she had ever encountered. He had entered her world, faced the dangers with her, and proven himself willing to risk everything. By morning, the queen had made her first silent decision. She would allow this human to accompany her, at least for now. Trust was not given easily, but it could grow through action, and his actions had begun to earn her respect. Together, they could face the challenges ahead, though neither knew exactly what awaited them. The bond forming between them was fragile but important. It was the start of an alliance that could change everything, and perhaps even save the alien queen from the brink of death. With the first light of dawn, they set out again. The warrior led the way, careful but steady, and the queen followed, gaining strength and courage with each step. Though they were still strangers, an unspoken understanding had begun to form. One thing was clear: survival would depend not only on strength but also on trust, courage, and the willingness to fight together. The warrior had arrived unexpectedly, but his presence already brought hope. And for the first time in days, the alien queen believed that help might be real. The alien queen and the human warrior moved carefully through the dense, ruined city, aware that danger was closing in on them. They had survived countless challenges together, but now the enemy was closer than ever. Small patrols had spotted them, and the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the empty streets. The queen could feel the tension in the air, a weight she had not experienced in decades. She was strong, but even she knew that this confrontation could decide everything. The warrior's eyes scanned every shadow. He moved with precision and alertness, signaling to the queen when to take cover and when to move quickly. His experience and skill were evident in every motion, but the tension in his body showed that he understood the gravity of the situation. The queen followed his lead, trusting his judgment while relying on her own instincts. They were a team now, but this battle would test them like never before. Suddenly, enemy forces appeared from multiple directions. They were armed and relentless, moving quickly to surround the queen and the warrior. The queen's first instinct was to fight, to use her power to push them back. But the warrior grabbed her arm gently, whispering, "We need a plan. Fight smart, not just strong." She nodded, understanding that this time, raw strength alone would not save them. The warrior moved forward, creating a diversion. He threw a small device that emitted bright lights and loud noises, confusing the enemies and drawing their attention away from the queen. She used the opportunity to slip past the initial group of attackers, moving with agility and speed. She watched the warrior carefully, noticing how he risked himself to keep her safe. Each decision he made carried danger, yet he never hesitated. It was bravery in its purest form, and the queen felt a deep respect and gratitude for him. The enemy regrouped quickly, more determined than before. They realized the distraction was a trap and advanced toward the warrior. The queen wanted to rush to his aid, but he gestured for her to stay back. "Trust me," he said firmly. She hesitated but obeyed, seeing the resolve in his eyes. The warrior stood his ground as the attackers closed in, using clever maneuvers and quick thinking to hold them off. He fought not for himself, but to give the queen a chance to escape, every move putting his life on the line. The queen found temporary cover behind a collapsed building. She watched the warrior battle, her heart racing. She had faced countless foes in her life, but never had she seen someone willing to risk everything for her survival. The realization struck her hard. This human had given his all, not for glory or reward, but because he believed in protecting life and honor. She felt emotions she had long suppressed: gratitude, admiration, and a deep connection to him. Despite his skill, the warrior began to tire. The enemies were relentless, pushing forward with determination. It was clear that he could not hold them off for much longer. The queen's mind raced, and she realized she could no longer remain passive. Summoning her strength, she leaped into the fight, using her agility and power to strike at the attackers, creating openings for the warrior to regain control. Together, they moved like a single unit, their combined efforts pushing back the enemy. In the midst of the chaos, the warrior made a bold decision. He saw a group of attackers about to ambush the queen from behind and moved quickly to intercept them. In the process, he was struck by a powerful blow, throwing him to the ground. Pain shot through his body, but he refused to give up. He pushed himself to rise, blocking another attack and giving the queen the chance to gain higher ground and a clear path. His sacrifice was deliberate, placing her survival above his own. The queen's heart pounded as she realized the danger he faced. She wanted to run to him, to fight beside him, but he had told her to trust him. She obeyed, moving swiftly to safety while keeping her focus on the battle. She understood the magnitude of his actions. This was not just courage, it was the ultimate act of loyalty and selflessness. The warrior had given everything to ensure she lived. Finally, the enemies began to retreat, confused and weakened by the queen and the warrior's combined efforts. The queen rushed to the warrior's side as soon as she could, her hands trembling, as she checked him for injuries. He was battered and bleeding, but he smiled faintly, a sign of relief that the immediate danger had passed. She felt a mix of sorrow and admiration. This human had risked everything, and she could never forget his bravery. The warrior, though weak, spoke softly. "You survive. That's what matters." The queen nodded, tears welling in her eyes. She had always believed that strength meant ruling alone, but now she realized that true strength could also mean trust, compassion, and relying on others when it mattered most. She had learned that courage was not just her own. It could be shared, and together they had overcome impossible odds. As night fell, the queen helped the warrior to a safe place to rest. She tended to his wounds as best she could, using her knowledge and the supplies he had brought. The bond between them had deepened beyond survival. It was now built on shared struggle, respect, and gratitude. The warrior had shown her a side of life she had long forgotten, the power of selfless acts, and the strength that could arise from caring for another being. Though the battle was over for now, the queen knew the danger was not gone entirely. But she also knew something vital. She had an ally she could depend on, someone willing to face death to protect her. The events of this day would remain in her memory forever, a reminder of the warrior's courage and the importance of trust and cooperation. The queen felt a new sense of hope, strengthened by the knowledge that even in the darkest moments, there were those who would stand by her side. The alien queen and the human warrior moved through the ruins together, forming an alliance born of necessity and growing trust. Though they came from completely different worlds, they shared a single goal: survival. Each step they took was filled with danger, but also with a sense of purpose. The warrior guided the queen through paths that were less exposed to enemy patrols, while the queen used her knowledge of the terrain to anticipate threats and avoid traps. Slowly, their skills complemented one another, creating a team neither had expected. Their journey was not easy. The ruins were filled with hazards, broken bridges, unstable structures, and jagged rocks that could injure them at any moment. At one point, the queen nearly fell into a deep crevice, but the warrior caught her just in time. She was surprised by the human's strength and reflexes, and a spark of respect formed in her mind. She realized that he was not just brave, but capable, and that trusting him could indeed make the difference between life and death. They moved quietly, communicating mostly through gestures and brief words. The alien queen's language was complex, filled with tones and signals that the warrior had learned slowly but carefully. Over time, they began to understand each other better, even without speaking full sentences. The warrior's patience and attentiveness helped build a bridge between their worlds, allowing them to cooperate seamlessly. It was a small but important victory in a situation that offered few reasons for hope. As they traveled, they encountered remnants of the enemy forces. Small patrols roamed the area, searching for the queen. Each encounter tested their coordination and courage. In one instance, the queen used her agility to distract a group of soldiers while the warrior disabled their equipment, preventing them from raising an alarm. The human's quick thinking impressed the queen. She realized that while she had relied on her strength and authority for centuries, working with someone who approached problems differently could open new possibilities. During their journey, the queen began to notice more than just the warrior's skills. She observed his unwavering focus, his willingness to put himself in danger for her safety, and his determination to succeed no matter the cost. It was a kind of bravery she had never fully experienced from anyone outside her species. Her respect for him grew, but so did something more subtle, a sense of connection. She was no longer just a ruler in danger. She was someone being protected by another being who truly cared about her survival. They took refuge in abandoned structures whenever the enemy's patrols passed. In one old building, they rested for several hours. The queen tended to her wounds, as best she could, using supplies the warrior had brought. He watched silently, making sure no danger approached while she regained some strength. During these quiet moments, the queen reflected on the unusual situation she found herself in. For centuries, she had ruled with authority, commanding loyalty and fear, yet here she was, learning to rely on someone else. It was humbling, but also enlightening. The human warrior did not expect gratitude and he did not seek it, but the queen offered small gestures of acknowledgement. A nod, a word of thanks, or a slight smile were her ways of showing trust. Each of these small moments helped strengthen their bond. They began to share stories of their pasts, brief glimpses of experiences that shaped them. The queen spoke of her victories and the heavy responsibilities of leadership, while the warrior spoke of battles he had faced and the importance of protecting life. These exchanges, though limited, built mutual understanding. Their alliance was tested further when they came upon a narrow canyon. The enemy forces were approaching from both ends and there was no immediate way to escape. The queen and the warrior had to act quickly. Using a combination of strategy and courage, they set traps and created diversions to slow down their pursuers. The queen's intelligence and the warrior's improvisation worked together perfectly, allowing them to slip past the enemy with minimal confrontation. This success reinforced their trust in each other. They realized that by combining their strengths, they could survive dangers that would have been impossible to face alone. As days passed, the queen began to feel a growing admiration for the warrior. He was unlike anyone she had known, patient, resourceful, and willing to act with selflessness. She began to let go of some of her skepticism, realizing that relying on someone else did not make her weak. It made her stronger. At the same time, she noticed a change in herself. She felt emotions she had long suppressed: hope, gratitude, and a budding sense of companionship. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe that survival was possible. The warrior, too, felt a growing respect and concern for the queen. He had faced many challenges in his life, but protecting her was different. She was not just a person in danger. She was a leader whose strength and vision had shaped an entire world. He felt a responsibility to ensure that she lived, not for glory or reward, but because he understood the importance of her survival. Their bond was unspoken but powerful, built through shared struggle and mutual reliance. One evening, as they rested near the edge of a cliff overlooking the ruins, the queen looked at the human warrior and said softly, "You have done more for me than anyone else ever has. I trust you." The warrior nodded, acknowledging her words without needing to speak much more. The trust between them had been earned through actions, not promises. It was a quiet moment, yet it carried immense weight. For both of them, it was the beginning of a true partnership. The journey was far from over. The enemy was still in pursuit and dangers awaited at every turn. But now, the alien queen and the human warrior faced these challenges together. They had formed an alliance that relied on more than survival instincts. It relied on trust, courage, and respect. Each day they learned from one another, growing stronger as a team. By moving forward together, they discovered that survival was no longer just about avoiding danger. It was about learning to adapt, to support one another, and to face the unknown with determination. The queen, once isolated and vulnerable, now had an ally she could depend on. The warrior, who had come seeking only to help, found purpose and connection in protecting the queen. As they continued their journey, both understood that the bond they were forming could make the difference between life and death. Their alliance had become more than strategy. It was a merging of two worlds, two perspectives, and two hearts committed to the same goal. Together, they were stronger than they could ever be alone. And so, step by step, obstacle by obstacle, the alien queen and the human warrior moved forward. Each challenge they faced only reinforced their reliance on one another. Danger was constant, but their growing trust and determination gave them a sense of hope. They were no longer two strangers, brought together by circumstance. They were a team, bound by necessity, courage, and the shared desire to survive. The alien queen and the human warrior emerged from the ruins, both exhausted but alive. The immediate danger had passed, yet the memory of the battle lingered in their minds. The warrior's injuries were serious, but he had survived, and his presence was a reminder of the cost of courage and loyalty. The queen walked beside him, supporting him as they navigated the rocky terrain. Each step forward was a testament to their resilience and the bond that had formed between them. As they traveled, the queen reflected on the journey they had shared. She had been alone, vulnerable, and facing certain death. Yet, the human warrior had come into her life unexpectedly and changed everything. He had risked everything to save her, and in doing so, he had taught her an important lesson. Strength was not measured by power alone, but by courage, trust, and selflessness. She felt a profound gratitude that went beyond words, a sense of connection that bridged their different worlds. The warrior, despite his injuries, remained alert. He moved carefully, aware that the journey was not yet over, but there was a quiet sense of satisfaction in his actions. He had fulfilled his mission, protecting the queen when it mattered most. Though his body was tired, his spirit was strong. He understood that their survival was not just about fighting enemies, it was about learning to rely on one another and discovering the power of unity in the face of danger. Together, they reached a small settlement far from the ruins. It was a place of refuge, quiet and protected from further attacks. The queen finally allowed herself to rest fully, knowing that she was safe, at least for now. The warrior helped her settle in, tending to her wounds and ensuring she had everything she needed. In this calm environment, they had the chance to reflect on everything they had endured and the bond they had formed. The queen realized that her life had changed. She had always been a leader who relied on her own strength, who ruled with authority and expectation. But now, she understood the importance of partnership and trust. The human warrior had shown her that survival and victory were possible when two beings worked together, respecting and supporting one another. She felt a deep admiration for him, not just as a protector, but as a friend and ally. Over time, the queen began to rebuild her leadership, informed by the lessons she had learned. She reached out to her people, inspiring them with stories of courage, loyalty, and the unexpected alliance with a human who had risked everything to save her. Her people were amazed by the story and inspired to trust in the power of unity and compassion. The warrior's actions became a symbol of hope, demonstrating that bravery could cross the boundaries of species and worlds. Though the warrior had been injured, he recovered slowly with the queen's care and the support of her people. He remained a constant presence, not as a subordinate or servant, but as an equal partner in the queen's efforts to restore her world. Together they faced challenges, overcame obstacles, and built a stronger, more united community. The queen had learned that leadership was not just about power, it was about empathy, trust, and the courage to accept help when needed. In the quiet moments, the queen would often look at the warrior and reflect on the sacrifices he had made. His bravery had saved her life, and in doing so, had changed the course of her destiny. She felt a deep sense of respect and connection, knowing that the bond they shared was unbreakable. Though their worlds were different, their shared experiences had created something powerful: trust, loyalty, and a sense of purpose that neither could have achieved alone. The queen also realized that her legacy had changed. She was no longer a ruler who relied solely on fear and authority. She was now a leader who understood the value of courage, compassion, and partnership. The warrior's actions had shown her that true strength included the willingness to protect, to care, and to fight for others even at great personal cost. This lesson would guide her leadership for the rest of her life. As the sun rose over the recovering city, the queen and the warrior stood together, looking at the horizon. They had survived impossible odds, faced enemies that seemed unbeatable, and emerged stronger because of their alliance. The queen knew that the future was uncertain, but she also knew that with trust, courage, and unity, there was nothing they could not overcome. The human warrior had given everything to save her, and in return she would honor his bravery and ensure that their story would be remembered for generations. In the end, survival was not just about living, it was about learning, growing, and forming bonds that could withstand the harshest trials. The alien queen had faced death and found life not alone, but with a human warrior who had risked everything to save her. Together, they had proven that courage, trust, and selflessness could bridge worlds and transform destinies. Their story became a legend, a reminder that even in the darkest moments hope could shine, and the greatest strength could come from the heart.